As a missional church that takes great interest in our society, the United Church of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, this evening saw it fit to have a discussion surrounding the safety of women and girls in our society, particularly as passengers, but as our conversation will unfold, you'll see here that we'll also be touching on a different aspect, even so as taxi operators. Now, what we have been seeing in our society is an increase definitely in abduction by persons who are posing as taxi drivers and two who are posing as passengers. And these persons are both male and female. But in honor of International Elimination of Violence Against Women Day, which is today, November 25th, we'll be having a conversation around the threats that women and girls are facing in our society and the growing fear surrounding this scourge. Because of course we know that this is something that we have been dealing with for years, and we're seeing a spike definitely, but we're also anticipating an increase with the Christmas season coming up. We're going to hand over right now to our moderator, the Right Reverend Gary Harriott, just to share a little bit about what our church is doing uh, on this matter. And then I'll share with you the guests that we have today on our roundtable talk. Moderator.
Thank you very much. And it is really wonderful to share this space with our colleagues and all those who will benefit from this presentation. The United Church, as you have said, is a missional church, meaning that we live out the gospel of Jesus Christ in all areas of life. And so whatever affects the life and well-being of our people, both in Cayman and Jamaica, and indeed the region and the world, we have vested interest as a church. The matter of peace and justice, safety, are among those matters that we are concerned with. We have been engaged in peace building initiatives in different ways. And so this conversation fits very well within that perspective as well. Today being the International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women, we are very pleased to be identified with this cause when we think of what's happening against women and girls in particular. We as a church, as a part of our own advocacy, we have joined the global campaign that is known as Thursdays in Black. So we are partnering with the Jamaica Council of Churches, with the Gender Studies Department of the University of the West Indies, with the World Council of Churches, the global gathering of the church, in responding to this issue of crime and violence, especially violence and rape against our women and girls. So that's a part of who we are as church, very involved in the life of society. And this is one of those issues that we have vested interest in. As you can imagine, we are church, so we are family. In our pews, we have mostly women and men, and women and girls. And so we have a real need to work at their safety and protection. Bless you.
Thank you, moderator, for sharing that. All right, so we have with us this evening two representatives from TODS, that is the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services. We have sitting with us the president, Mr. Egerton Newman, and also the General Secretary and former bus operator, Miss Diane Dennis. Also with us is Mr. Carlton Rodney. He is I must say, Carlton Rodney Senior, let me say that. He's a security management consultant and international peacekeeper with over 35 years of security management and law enforcement experience, right? So this promises to be a rich discussion, I hope, exploring the safety of women, let me say on the road or in the streets, as we aim to hear from Ms. Diane Dennis from her perspective. She experienced as a bus operator some years ago. All right. So first and foremost, we want to hear from Mr. Newman on the issue of persons posing as taxi operators. And we're exploring this simply because as a church, we're also concerned about the livelihood and well-being of our taxi operators. And as we can all assume or we can understand, The fact that there are persons posing as taxi operators and they are abducting women and girls, they're putting females at risk in the streets. It means then that it definitely affects the livelihood of authentic, actual, genuine operators trying to earn a living. Mr. Newman, can you share with us what those threats are in relation to the occupation and the livelihood of a taxi operator?
Let me say, first of all, thank you very much for allowing me to be associated with this event this afternoon. I think it's a pleasure for the public transport sector to share in this space. And the thing about the United Church, and I must tell you, I'm a student of Knox College, and you know that it's connected to the United Church. And I believe one of the best United Church in Jamaica is the Stallings United Church. So I have a long-term connection there. And Helen Stills was my principal at the time. So
it's good to know that, Mr. Newman. I didn't recognize that. I am a Knox Pass student too.
But let's get to the meat of the matter this afternoon. The issue of the public transport sector being engaged in a situation where women and girls have been on an ongoing basis since my sojourn in the public transport sector 18 years ago. And we have been associated with this discussion of abduction, not only of women and girls, but of men also. But we want to focus on the women today. Over the past 10 years, we have had myriad of these occasions. In recent times, University of the West Indies, areas around East Kingston, and it happens mostly in the Kingston Metropolitan Transport region. So we as members of the sector, we're under siege because most of these happenings are people are using the sector as a cover. I remember sometimes ago I was downtown Kingston and saw a man taking off his white plate, putting on a red plate. So that man is not a taxi man, I'm sure. Was about to engage in something. And so we are very, very concerned, especially at this time as we approach festive season. We expect more of this to happen if we don't put certain things in place to counter the challenges ahead of us. We are concerned about the security force because we don't have enough. We are about 3,500 men short on the ground in terms of security personnel. And so they cannot boot the entire space where we have 35,000 public transport operators operating. And most of these cases, we don't hear about them is because the KMTR is surrounded with media persons. And so it comes to light very fast and the absence of social media. But in rural areas, to me, is an ongoing occurrence. We don't hear about this until the child returns. So we have a vested interest, and my general second give you personal experience of this situation. May I say, just 72 hours ago, if I check the hours right, and Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, a taxi man decided he won't take me any further because he did not know me. And he tell me, get out of my car immediately because we were alone and he was maybe coward. I think I was properly dressed. So, you know, and I have to jump out of the car. My sector wonder what is going on because I was on the phone before it was open and everybody could hear while talking to this taxi operator, but he wanted to secure himself because I was on the phone talking to somebody who he did not. So we are very concerned about what is happening, and we are calling for a stop and an end to this, but talk alone will not cut it right. It got to the action. So we have tips, especially for this Christmas season, as to how commuters should engage themselves in taking a public transportation. That is very important. Yes, I know what us as operators need to do and should do, but we also need to tell the commuters some things, and I'll get back to you on that.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Newman. You mentioned just now that the Secretary, Ms. Dennis, will have something to share with us in relation to that. But I want to ask Ms. Dennis in this moment to share with us, because I asked you about the matter of fear, and you shared an experience, Mr. Newman, as a passenger where a taxi operator was afraid of the possibilities surrounding you being in the vehicle at whatever hour of the night and also speaking on your phone to somebody that he does not know. Ms. Dennis, you have a similar experience where you feared for your life as a bus operator. Share that experience with us.
Well, good afternoon and thank you for having me here. Well, I remember some years ago I was conducting my bus. It was night. I picked up 4 men at the top of Dunrobin Avenue. And immediately as they came in the bus, I realized that they were all strapped, meaning that they had weapons on them. I was a little nervy. I collected the bus and I was at odds as to what to do with the money that I had. I didn't want to put away the money for them to see that I had the money on my person. And I didn't want him to know that I had other funds on me at the time. So I just kept the money in my hand. And I guess my nervousness showed because when we got to Central Village, just before they came off, one of them turned to me and he said, "Mom, sister, you're afraid, you know. It's enough for worry. Tonight was a good night, not choke you." And I mean, I felt so relieved, you know, knowing that they wouldn't be robbing the bus or robbing me. And we talk about the threat level. I've been on the bus on several occasions and seen pickpockets come on the bus. And especially our females. As they get on the bus, they take out their cell phones and you're just busy yapping away. They too have a tendency of putting the earphones in both their ears, so they're unaware of what is going on the bus. I remember one night in particular, I knew a pickpocket was on the bus. He came on the bus in Daly Park and he didn't get off of the bus back to Arbitrary. And as the passengers were coming in, I kept saying, "Ladies, please put away your phones. Be very careful with your handbags," and stuff like that. I was just saying that because I didn't know what else to say to them without, you know, evoking anger from this pickpocket. To my dismay, when we got down the boulevard, just little before we got to Portville Garden, an alarm came from the back of the bus. This young lady that she had been robbed because the young man had come off at the stop before and had taken away her phone because she was actually using the phone, even though I cautioned against them taking out their phone. And she, when the bus got to Corville bus stop and we stopped, she jumped out the bus, left her handbag on the seat to run down this supposedly pickpocket. It was pretty late because it was about 10 o'clock. I could not have the busload of people sitting there waiting on her. Fortunately, a police jeep came across the light from the Daly Park station, and I flagged down the jeep and explained to the officers what had transpired and handed them the handbag and pointed them in the direction that she had gone in pursuit of the pickpocket. But what I went through during the few times and the few occasions over the years that I would go on the bus, you find that the men in particular, when they come on and they see a female conducting the bus, they think it's like manna from heaven. Because things that they would try, things that they would say to you, they wouldn't say it to a male conductor. And because they're out there every day, they tend to know when it's not your area of expertise. You know, sometimes some of them would say, yeah, one day doctor's man. One day doctor's and you know, that sort of thing, especially when you find the men do not like to pay their fare, or men do not like to pay their fare. They tend to want a free ride, and you're not adverse to giving anybody a free ride. You're not adverse to that, but it's how they do it. They want to bully you and intimidate you. And to me, back then, I found that to be quite repulsive because I'm saying, on the state-owned buses, you can't go on there and bully the driver or the conductor. You have to pay. But yet, when you step onto somebody's private vehicle, that is sacrificed and invested, you believe that you have this God-given right to do and say as you please. So the risk that we face, you come out every day, we are bombarded with extortionists all over the place. There are extortionists in Africa, extortionists in Spanish Town, there are extortionists downtown. There's no way of escaping. And these are monies that we must pay in order to operate. For me, the first morning I went out on my vehicle, I had a transaction today in Spanish Town, and I don't know, I just decided to come out when the bus was leaving home. When the bus got to Spanish Town, the conductor was late. So I decided then that I would collect the bus. That was my first experience, and at about 8:30, I remember coming into Spanish Town and two young men approached me. And they said, Mom, what are you start for this morning? I said, excuse me, what is that to you? You know, I didn't know who they were. I didn't have a clue what was happening. So I said, what is that to you? And he said to me, he has to be paid $200 every trip that I do. So I said, really? I need to give you $200 for every trip. And I looked at him and I said, but you don't even wash your face from morning. I said to him, you know, not knowing that these were really bad men. I said, if you don't even wash from morning, you come to tell me that I need to give you $200 for every trip. I said, I was not present in that maths class. I can't do that. I've been out here from 4 o'clock. And you come in now at 8:30 to tell me that I must give you $200 for every trip. And he was like, Mama saw the thing said, you know. So I said, what thing? And then the other one said to him, she don't understand, you know. She don't understand, take time with her. And I said, no, man, I said, I'm not going, you know, she'll go on and go until me this her. And the other one said, no, she don't understand what you're talking about. She don't have a clue.
Did you ever experience physical hurt from any of those situations?
Yes, yes, I have been physically assaulted. On 2 occasions, I remember one evening, just as I exited Mullines Road and stopped at the bus stop, gentleman tried to force his way into the bus. I'm always picking him up, but he never had his fare. That particular evening, the bus was full, and I told him I couldn't take him. He was to step back, and he grabbed my throat. And you know, the driver had to stop and come around to him and, you know, diffuse what could have escalated into a bad situation. Another time again, one Sunday, I just finished servicing the bus and I decided that I was going to do a few trips. I picked up about 8 ladies going into Spanish Town, and they all told me they didn't have any money. They were traveling with children, which made it worse. So of course, you know, I took them into Spanish Town free of cost. when I got to Spanish Town, one of the known extortionists over there approached me and asked me for some funds, which I told him I didn't have because I didn't have a dial money at the time. And he walked off. I thought that was the end of the matter. At about 9 o'clock, I saw him approaching the bus. I was standing on the step of the bus, and I saw him approaching. You know, menacingly manner. So I said, what is he about? So just as he got pretty close to me on the door, I leaned back inside the bus, and just as I did that, his hand came out to box me. You know, it caught me in my eye, and I went down to the police station. When I got down to the police station, the police officer was like, I want to encourage them, no always I give them money, so we come down here complain about. So I said to her, excuse me, I don't understand you. What are you talking about encouraging? Because from having out here, I've not paid any extortion. So I don't understand, and I thought that you're here to serve, protect, and reassure. And I was just assaulted, and I'm here to make a report. This is not what I expect you to say to me. And I took up my phone at that moment, and SSP Forbes, we had a good relationship with him then. And I called him and I said, SSP Forbes, this is what is happening to me at Spanish Town Police Station, trying to make a report. And the officer is telling me that I'm here to waste our time because I pay extortionist, so I shouldn't be coming down here to file a complaint. And that was all, you know, because SSP Forbes then spoke to the commanding officer, and some sergeant came out and asked for me by name, and that's how the constable at the time took the statement and all of that. So the level of threat that is out there is very real. It is real, and the same thing that I go through as a female. We know we're talking today about the prevention of threats against our women, but the men also, our men also face that same danger and the same challenges, and probably to a higher scale than us as female, because when they will have a little tolerance for us, they show no mercy to the men.
Right, that is true, that is true. All right, so as we have this discussion, right, in honor of International Elimination of Violence Against Women Day, and we've been listening to the personal experiences from of the representatives from Todd. Obviously, there are some points that definitely stood out to us. And right now, I want to ask Mr. Rodney, right, based on what they have shared and based on what he knows as an expert in the security field, to really share with us on how we can identify these threats, right? So we heard a few things just now from the two reps, but we're going to ask Mr. Rodney now to share from his perspective how we can go about identifying some of these threats.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I listened to Ms. Dennis a while ago and Mr. Newman, and both experiences that they both share. Very real, they are painful, and unfortunately, they are true. It is abnormal occurrences on our streets from day to day. I want to just look at some of the threats, and the threats in the transportation industry is also threats that affect other people right across the spectrum of our society. So Ms. Dennis spoke to a particular environment a while ago. I just want to follow up by saying the space that you are going to be operating in, you need to know that environment. You need to know the highs and the low. You need to have an idea of the persons who you are interfacing with each day, because some faces are more pronounced than others. You need to have a feel of the level of civility around you in those bus bays, the parking bays, and the transportation centers. You also want to know the history of the space. In terms of accessibility of the space, you want to know, because some spaces that vehicles have to park, they are not user-friendly, especially when the hour of the day changes as we go into evening time. We want also to pay attention in terms of our own self. Can we sufficiently manage some of the challenges that will meet us in these spaces? And if the answer is no, what do we need to do? Do we stay to expose ourselves, or do we pull ourselves, or do we let law enforcement know that this space has issues after particular hours of the day, right? You want to look at the instructions that people are giving you, nondescript people. They are not bus inspectors. They are not police officers. They are not employed to the municipality, but yet still they are giving instructions. So you want to pay attention to that. Importantly as well, and I want to just shift for a moment to people who are actually being transported, passengers. Too often, people go to places that they know not of. People are invited into space, but they can't tell you who invited them. Those are some of the issues we need to look at in identifying the threat, because if you can't identify the person who is inviting you or issuing you instruction, you leave yourself vulnerable, and law enforcement is not able to help you or to help your family members. So those are some of the broad areas about identifying threat. We also want to Mr. Newman spoke earlier about seeing an operator change in license plate. That is not normal. License plates are issued by the relevant tax authority. They are permanent fixtures to vehicle. They are not interchangeable. So that is a red flag. Several people driving vehicle is another red flag. A vehicle go up the road, they come back down with another driver. Sometimes if you observe carefully, the person who was a driver at the beginning is now the conductor on the other leg. And then he is accompanied by 2 and 3 more, and I put in quote here, so-called conductors. They are not. So we want to look at that, and then further on, we're going to spend a little bit more time expanding on the subject.
All right. Mr. Rodney made a very smooth transition to the passengers or pedestrians. And so I want to ask Ms. Dennis and Mr. Newman, you guys can decide how you want to approach this, to share with us now some of the threats that the passengers and pedestrians, or let me just say pedestrians, are facing from what you have observed in the streets. So you have your personal experiences, you know what is happening, but what are some of the threats that they can look out for, and how can they go about identifying these threats? Ms. Dennis, you mentioned earlier that you knew that a pickpocket, right, was coming into the bus. How did you know he was a pickpocket? How do we look out for these things, and how do we identify them?
Well, in that particular instance, I knew the young man as a known pickpocket because I've seen him in operation on more than one occasion.
So observers
So it is for me, I'm very observant. So I like to take note of what is going on around me. So I will not go into a bus or a taxi and just sit facing forward. I'm going to be always looking around. I want to see who's coming to sit beside me. I want to see who's the driver before I get in and stuff like that. And being an insurer, one of the things that I always take note of is the vehicle number before I get into any vehicle. So if I'm in a vehicle, I can tell you that I'm in a Toyota Corolla, and the plate number is so and so, the vehicle color is so and so. That's how observant I am. And I teach this to my children, you know. Don't just up into a vehicle. Pay attention to the vehicle that you're in, because you want to be able to give a signal to say what is happening. And I tell people, if you're unable to speak, just dial 911 and talk normally, because they will hear and they will pick up, and you know, some sort of action can be taken at that time. I want to caution our females especially, how you dress, especially at night, is also a risk factor, because I would tell my daughters that if you're going out at night, never you dress like a rape. And a lot of our females tend to dress like rape. You know, you're attracting the wrong kind of attention to yourself based on how you dress. Another thing too that our females need to be mindful of is that yes, our phones are important, but they're not that important that when you get into a public vehicle, you're on your phone from point A to point B, oblivious to everything that is going on around you. They hear nothing, they see nothing, because they are just in their phone. And these are things that when something happens down the road, they're the last persons to get out, because they didn't even know that the bus was on fire, because they're down in their phones. I've seen females especially, and the conductor $1,000 and they're to get back change. And all the doctor is saying, $1,000 for the front door, $800 change or whatever. And he would spend an half an hour until somebody touches them, instead of the doctor is trying to give you the change. They are so caught up in their phone, you know. That is really a no, that is very risky. And when you come on to taking the taxi, you have to be ever so mindful. When you flag down a taxi, don't just flag down a taxi because you want to get away from the space that you're in. But when that taxi pulls up to you, we have what we call a gut feeling. Pay attention to your gut feeling, because a lot of times we are warned by that gut feeling to say, make that car go. You know, I don't want this one or whatever. And you don't business only want to quarrel, because a lot of times, even though you may think that the female that is in there gives you added protection, that female is also working with the other persons that are in the car, who are going to be posing a danger to you. So it is something that is very real. And you know, our females all, as females, we owe ourselves a certain duty of care to be a little more conscious and a little more aware of our surroundings. And if we could pay less attention to the cell phone when we are in these public vehicles and public spaces, a lot of times we would avert a lot of danger.
Let me say, I want to endorse every single word said by my General Secretary just now. But I want to just turn my attention to something very important, because on the 2nd of December, of course, we will be launching our 40-day road safety awareness campaign. And we will be announcing on that day 13 tips towards safety for the Christmas season. And you know, if you buy Jafar Number 13 is security, is police. So the fact is that we want to share with commuters some tips, some new tips, and some old ones that you should be aware of. And Diane spoke about the cellular phones. It's a dangerous weapon. Just think that if you have that cellular phone in your hand, something will happen to you when you get into that car. Because in most cases, and I said to commuters, take your cab, take your taxi, take a bus in an environment where other PPV vehicles are. That place is crowded with passengers. That's the best place to take your vehicle, because most of the abduction taking place now is either flag down or the taxi man pointing finger so, and you say yes. You don't know who is it. When you take your transportation in a well-built up area like a taxi stand, a taxi park, a bus park, then other Diane who drive next taxi will see Edgerton taxi and know that. I mean, you can say yes, the taxi man, but there are many cases. A man, a white plate car, I don't even call it a robot, a white plate car want extra money or an extra girl. So he points to downtown. Somebody's really going another way. And so, and when you have those two things in your ears, on that phone, you see the hand flag, you see the hand up, but in fact you don't know where you don't see the license plate. And might I say here, very importantly, that a red license plate does not say that it's a taxi. You must understand that. What we are pushing now is that if you don't see that badge in that car, if you don't see that badge on that person, which is the driver or the conductor, just say that man might not be a taxi man. Just set in your mind. You must always, at all times, take time off to observe the car before you get into it. Yes, one thing is the red plate. The other thing is the signage on the side of the car. The other thing is the mark, whether it's a yellow and black or a white and black marker on the car. And we are saying, most importantly, with that badge, a big badge hang up on the main street. When you do that, put away your phone. Don't hear what some people said, maybe you said, don't say, oh, use a phone and take a picture and carry. No. That man who is not a real taxi man is going to take away your phone. Unless you are so smart to take a picture and send it to a friend immediately. You know, I was in that car on Monday afternoon talking to someone. I know the man was a taxi man. I think I heard the horn of the car before. But the fact is, he could have got the phone from me. He could do something because he heard me talking to somebody. He could have done something. I don't know what he would do. But we have to be observant when taking a public passenger vehicle. Some people taking out a whole pile of money and they take out $100. Huh? No. When I take taxi, I can tell them most times. And when I'm going to take a taxi, I make sure to put that $100 in my shirt pocket. If it's two taxis, $200 in my shirt pocket. The other money is elsewhere, and I won't tell you where else I put the other money. I mean, it's public, you know. But the fact is, if you are not observed, people are hungry. The social order in this country is going to zero, not only in this country, but I'm not Jamaica. And so we have to be conscious when traveling in our space. If we don't do it, we cannot say somebody didn't say. The person who gets abducted in the past couple of months, they just jump in a car in the east. I went the total opposite way. And go to the campus, pick up other persons. I can't imagine as a passenger. We don't have Bull Bay to University, no, to Kingston. No. First of all, find out not from the man who's loading the car. Find out from the driver where you are going and remind him where you are going. And if he's asking you several questions as a driver, listen, the best thing to do is to no, for God, leave me here. Hope it's not night, it's not night. But there are times when you can you leave your wallet to something, drop me out here because you're not become conscious that something might be wrong. Why is this driver asking me so many questions? So I want us to look at those things. And I said, next week, Thursday, we're announcing 13 points. Remember, number 13 is very important to security.
I know Mr. Rodney wanted to add something, but I want to ask the moderator in this moment to just share with us some experiences that he has had, or maybe what he has observed in the Cayman context, because we know that he worked in Cayman for a while. Moderator?
Well, Cayman has changed significantly since the time when I worked there. When I was in Cayman, 91 to 97, and you could give anybody a ride on the road. Anybody could be hitching a ride because Cayman never had the kind of public transportation system like in Jamaica. You know, most people drive, very few public transportation. And Cayman is small. So in those days, you could anybody could be hitching a ride. They just give them a ride to town or so, and there was never an issue. But things have changed in Cayman now. Cayman is not as safe. Cayman is now reporting gun violence, abduction, holding up. We're seeing that happening in Cayman now. So clearly, which is really so sad, because in those days when I lived in Cayman, Cayman was, you never hear of crime. You never did. I used to say to some persons that, boy, somebody may escape from the prison and you are in traffic, the police would stop you in traffic. You don't come out of your vehicle, you open your trunk, the police check your trunk, close back your trunk for you, and you're gone. That was the Cayman I lived in 91 to 97. But Cayman is not like that anymore. So even in Cayman, persons have to be very, very careful because of how things have changed. And as I listened to our persons share, I remember in Jamaica, a very sad story. I remember having to preside over that burial. It was a pharmacist, I recall, connected to one of our churches, Meadowbrook United Church. And her family would have normally picked her up after her shift in the night. But on this occasion, she decided not to give her sister and her husband any problem to come to pick her up. So she decided to take a public transportation. She spoke with them in Harvard. And when they listened to the family, they said after 10 minutes, they knew something was wrong because she should have been home by that time. And unfortunately, what was discovered later on was her body. A very painful story, very, very painful. I remember that. She was one of a twin, lived a very close relationship with her sister. And really, it was such a painful experience for the family. And so a part of the question for me is, instead of using the phone to be on the phone, in a public transportation, is there a way, can we get people to say, for instance, to call to say, I'm going into this taxi, the number is this, and so forth, as a way of some kind of security measure? At least that person knows that somebody else knows with whom I am with. So I maybe just put that out there for our experts to respond to that.
Okay.
Fully agree.
Mr. Rodney, you can go ahead and share your point now.
All right, quickly. I just want to endorse the sentiments that were earlier expressed by Mr. Newman and Ms. Dennis. The phone today is one of the most useful devices that have been given to us, but it can also be one of the most destructive. Far too often, people are unaware of the surroundings in which they are, and their heads are buried into the phone. The issue of using your phone smart is by way of text messaging, WhatsApp. You can WhatsApp the time that we will be here, the vehicle registration number. We want to avoid going into vehicles that are heavily tinted. We want to avoid going into vehicles that are also overcrowded. Equally important, those vehicles that has one person only in the back and the driver only, you want to be cautious as well. Those vehicles who announce that they are going down the road and spin around, those are red flags, and we need to look at it. But importantly, some of the information that we are giving on the telephone conversation in the cars are too much. Banking information, work sensitive information, our home, our addresses, those are unnecessary things to do and should never ever be done. We want to know as well by observation where in our journey we are on going to our destination. Too often we are unaware of exactly where we are. So if we are going from Tree to the university hospital, it should only be one way. Hope Road, Hope Road, Papine Square. It should not be turning in Waterloo direction. No, no. And the Ministry of National Security, through the police, they have an emergency up, and that is something that people should be installing. So I would hope, Mr. Newman, next week when you launch your 13-point thing, you would also add that to your list. The police has that, and people can just press on it, and it gives you an emergency response. It also gives you location and that sort of thing, right? So let us try to be observant. Let us try to be sensitive. Let us understand the context in which we are.
Can go. I wanted to talk about the security of our females on the campuses and exiting the campuses, because when my daughter started university, she was 17 years. On her way home from campus one night, a group of 5, they were robbed and relieved of their cell phones and their laptops. 2 persons were left with their phones because they had what was called a bang up. My daughter was beaten very badly by the gunman because she was saying that he took the laptop. She said, "Mommy, you took the laptop and I wasn't going to give you the phone." I said, "That's crazy, you know. You can't be tussling with somebody with a gun who has already pointed a gun at you, so you know he has the gun. And there you are tussling for a phone, just the same way that he used the phone to do you bodily harm. He could have killed you." So I said, next time, don't do that. You know, I had to go to the campus and speak with the vice president about the security of students leaving the campus at night, because they had buses parked on the campus, and I think it would have been safer for them to escort them to the nearest terminal, and at least you would alleviate the level of threat, because as they step through the gate, the security is telling you that as they step through the gate, they are being robbed, and they are being robbed by decent looking persons. On the same campus, another young lady that I knew, she was sitting down, minding her own business, doing her schoolwork on her laptop, and this car kept circling. The car kept circling, but she was observant, so she started to pay attention to the car circling, and she made an alert to someone on her phone. And within an half an hour, the car stopped at her feet, demanded the laptop from her. She had to hand over the laptop that had on all her schoolwork and all that is right here on the campus in broad daylight. So our institutions too need to play a very important role in securing the campus perimeter and the ease of access that vehicles can just come on the campus. Also, I think that they can go a bit further. I know sometimes they do engage the services of private operators to move students, but a lot of times any vehicle is allowed on the campus. And I think that it is time now that our universities put things in place, that they do engage reputable transport operators to move students, especially at night after hours. Because once you have that, then you know that this child took this particular bus, this bus is owned by this person. So if that child goes missing between campus and to where they would get off, then you know that you know somebody who can answer to the police as to exactly what is what is happening. Our campuses cannot leave the security of our students, of our children, to just the children, because a lot of them, some of them are from the country, they're in a new environment, and they really don't know how to navigate the space, and there are big spaces. And so I think our universities need to be a little bit more proactive and not reactive. I find that is a lot of reaction going on. The police too, when you go to the station, because that incident with my daughter, she had gone to the station to make a report, and the officer told her to go home because her things gone already. She come to wasting time. Seeing that she was badly, injured and all of that, I was offended at his response, because I'm saying my daughter is a minor. She's 17 years of age. She stopped at the station to make a report. We didn't take her name. We didn't try to alert a parent to say, this is the condition your daughter is in. You need to fetch her from the station. You again send her back out into danger because you don't know how far away that gunman is or whatever. So I was not pleased as a parent, and I called 1199, and I was very upset, and they directed me, to the head station for the division, and I went there. Unfortunately, the head of the division was a female, and she was not impressed. And I did my homework, and I found out who the officer was on duty that night that spoke to my daughter that way, and saw to it that some measure of what I would say, he was punished then for his handling of the matter. But how many of us as parents do get that chance? Sometimes you're sitting at home waiting on your child, and your child can't come home. You don't know the anxiety that, for me, because that particular night when my daughter was attacked, I had called her before, and I said to her, when you're leaving class, because she had the 8 o'clock class, I said, when you're leaving class, please let me know. And I saw it was after 10, and I had not heard from her, and I was getting really upset, and I was saying, I just told her that she needed to call me. Why hasn't she called? Only to see her come home looking like she had been in a dark fight, and then to tell me that this was the police's response. So, and when I went to the station, what baffled me was that the police was aware of what was happening. And I mean, there are so many young detectives that can go undercover and pose on these campuses to give our students added protection. And they're not doing that. They know what is happening. They know what is out there, because these persons who are coming onto the campus, they don't look like thieves and hoodlums, So because of that, you find that they're polite and they're nice, they're going to be responsive to them, and you don't know that you're about to be robbed. And I'm saying that our detectives, the police force, need to be a little bit more proactive, since you know that this is happening at this particular campus within this time frame. Get some of your young men and young women to pose as students, walk out of the campus, because then the perpetrators are going to approach them just the same as they would any other student, and then you'll be able to nab some of them. But you know these instances happening, and all you do is sit down in the station and wait on somebody to come and make a report, and then you promise that you're going to do this, and you promise that you're going to do that, and nothing happens until somebody else is hurt. So for me, the police can do much better than they're doing. And as I said again, and as Mr. Rodney said, passengers, please keep your conversations to a minimum and keep the personal stuff out of the conversation. And for people in Western Union too, who love to talk about how much money they are collecting, because that is also, you are followed to your vehicle or followed to wherever you're going because you're just in there blabbing your mouth, so somebody picks up, and not everybody that is there. When I first went to Montego Bay, I was relocated to Montego Bay to Edda Branch. And when I went to Montego Bay, I went to an ATM and I saw people there, but it was a taxi stand. So I went inside the ATM, withdrew some cash, and when I came out, a young man had a knife at my throat, asking for the money that I just withdrew. I said, what money? He said, you just withdrew $25,000 and I want it. You don't want me to cut that pretty face off yours. That's what he said to me. And I was there thinking, I said, what? I was saying to myself, but look, I'm going to take this pay fee because so much people just this machine is on a taxi stand, and I felt that it was safe. But I was new, as Mr. Rodney pointed out, I was new to the Montego Bay environment. So I really did not know that at that particular location, it was likely for me to have been robbed. So I went in the machine not knowing that I was putting myself in danger. So there are a number of things that we just need to pay attention to as we traverse, because times are really getting really, really serious and dangerous.
Security management is both an integrated and a collaborative effort. You spoke earlier about the issue of the campus and without alluding to any specific campus. We have a responsibility to ourselves first. We must do all that is within our remit, our power, to manage ourselves as good as possible. We want to divest ourselves of very attractive items. We want to put away those smartphones. We want to walk into groups. We want to go to areas that are properly lit. And we want to ask for assistance from the campus security people. It's not practical for any one person to walk out onto the street side, on the roadside, under a dark bus stop, if there is one, without lighting, without any form of support. So we have a responsibility to ourselves that we may be able to minimize the threat level. All right. The other thing, we need to be very observant, and we need to form groups if we're talking about school or workplace where people travel together. And there are some practical steps that we can take. If we are at a campus, at a workplace, and we work shifts, 5 of us can make contact with a particular service provider. That person is known to us. That person deliver us home in the evening. That person takes us from school. So you have one person that is known now to all 5, but is also known to the family. The license description, the plates and everything is now known. You are in a better space. But to be just walking out in dark places is dangerous. You want to avoid at night walking into open fields, into dark alleys and passageway. We want not to be stopping in these places and doing non-necessary chores and tasks. They can be done when we are in a better and safer place.
I know moderator is very passionate about this particular topic. He will speak right now, in fact, I'm asking you, moderator, to share your thoughts on us collaborating with different institutions, different schools, different workplaces, different establishments in ensuring the safety of our women and girls.
Right. I really think that together we can overcome a number of the challenges that we face. I wonder, for instance, even as we talk about some of the institutions, I remember not only UWI, other universities, right at the gate where students go to get their vehicles. Students have been held up on a number of occasions. And I too also wondered, how did it took so long for the security to put something in place to be able to nab some of those persons? So I wonder, for instance, whether our institutions, at least at your entrances or your exits, have them properly lit. Can we put in security cameras there so that we can have a sense of which vehicles come there, who they pick up, which vehicle you went into, at least to make your immediate space safer? I mean, I can't speak for the University of the West Indies. I know that they have done quite a bit in terms of security, but it's a large campus. And sometimes when you drive there and you go to some places in the night, you recognize how dark it is. Yes, I know they have people on, motorcycles and so forth, but it's a large campus. And other universities as well, especially where students congregate to get motor vehicle. They are seeing those who take advantage of them because it's a crowd, people want to get home, they just drive up, people jump into them. So while the pedestrian or the passenger needs to exercise care, then I also think that the institutions can do a little bit more in terms of at least your immediate space to make that safe, so we can monitor which vehicle you went into, etc. I also kind of wonder, I don't know how practical it is, but if you are taking a taxi, I mean, some of us were comfortable to say, well, if it has a red plate, then you can drop your guard. But based on Mr. Newman's comment, we can't even show that the red plate is so safe. But is there a way in which, for instance, gate, can you announce to somebody that this attack them in? So at least looking somebody with some extra eyes, hopefully those will help to know that maybe somebody else is taking note of who I am, and if there's anything that somebody can follow. But we want coordinate.
But may I ask you to repeat, please? You were breaking up just now. The connection was low.
You got me there? Right. So I'm saying that we should really try to work with each other. I was saying in terms of workplaces, so people can come together to do things together, keep your family informed, so that they can help to manage and monitor. Not sure if you had got, but one thing I was thinking that maybe when you're exiting a campus and you're in a taxi, for instance, that is red plate or not, that you can maybe just indicate to somebody, I'm leaving in this is a taxi I'm in, so at least hopefully some other, I have another look to say, okay, that's a taxi. You may not be able to remember taxis, but at least maybe if the person who is in the know that somebody is paying attention to me, then it may help to keep some other persons safe or safer. But really and truly, we have to look out for each other. Those of us who are parents of our children, well, was not at UWI, but she was on the road and got held up. Her phone was taken away from her as well. She wasn't on the phone, but the person knew she had a phone. These are ways in which we can help instead of walking alone. Make sure that you have company or somebody knows what you're about. I hear the Western Union story. The banks, some of the banks provide opportunities where you can send your funds to your account and you don't have to go to a Western Union outlet. These are ways in which you can capitalize, even though we know that the ATMs can also be very vulnerable. I go to other countries and I see ATMs in open spaces and people just go and use it. And I said, boy, in Jamaica, I would never do that. But it is safe in that place. We here, we have to take what I call calculated risk. Think seriously. Is this the right place? Is this the best place? Who else is here who can watch my back for me, as it were, so that you minimize the risk? And as church, we are a space where people meet every week, whether on Saturday or Sunday. And so we have a captive audience that we can also share these tips with. So hopefully when the 13 come out next week, that some of our churches will pass it on to our membership as well, so that the word goes out to as many people as possible.
I want to mention two quick things. One said, well, there are two items I want to share with our commuters. One is the fact that you can now feel a sense of comfort because of what we rolled out come next year, Diane, which is our wallet, our money wallet, where you don't use cash again, right? You use either a phone or a swipe card to pay your travel expenses. So that is one thing that's coming out. And this is news to Diane because I just went into the overseas company yesterday, where they're going to be supplying us with some two-way cameras, we call them dash cam, right?
Good.
So you will be in the space and we can pick up what is happening in front of us and what is happening in the vehicle. But anytime, if the police to see, they can see a small camera which is placed on the dashboard or on that radio, we call it, right? So you can pick up what is happening in front of you, what is happening. But two things. One of it, our 40-day campaign, and one week, early January, we launch off our cashless system in public transportation. And that will be a way for persons, if you're the amount they want to know. But when they see a pretty girl plus money, then gone, how to cut that where we can get a cut by putting in place cashless service on our dash cameras.
Another thing that I want to advise you is that we sometimes call for a cab and we call the taxi company and they call it thrown out. And there are unscrupulous persons who have devices at listening to these requests for a cab, and they do respond, and they assigned vehicle that the taxi company has given the work to. And so I would recommend that, when you call a cab, that you ascertain from the operator the make and light number of the vehicle that will be coming for you, because it has been happening recently where other unscrupulous drivers are turning up and picking up these passengers, and then they're being robbed. Another thing too is that we now have two companies, Red Plate and Arrive. And if our commuters would utilize these platforms, what you find is that the drivers that you're getting or the vehicles that you see coming to you, you can track on your phone, you know exactly who's coming, and these persons and the vehicles have already been pre-vetted by those two companies because they're technologically driven. And it's not something that you're going to call out that anybody else can listen in. There's an app that you download onto your phone. You can request a ride and you will know exactly who is coming for you, and you can track that person straight until you reach your destination. So your family can also track your ride. So those are safer means of transport, and those two companies are up and they're in operation presently, Arrive and Red Plate. And I would recommend that our commuters take full advantage of these services, because you'll be getting safer safer vehicles, safer drivers, and you'll be able to reach your destination in one piece.
Okay. So we're coming up to the end of this discussion, and I'm hearing that we need to be downloading some apps, all right? Red Plate and the Stay Alert app as well. Surely I've had personal experiences where I'd call one taxi company and another one would come. But it's not fun and games anymore to try to get the food as they say in the street, but it's really a matter of safety and concern. Right, I agree. We shared a lot of experiences this evening. We've spoken a bit on identifying the threats and risky practices as well. And a lot of tips were shared, definitely. And we were informed of some initiatives that we should be looking out for, correct? So in this moment, I'm handing back over to the moderator for him to give his response.
Thank you, Janelle, and thanks to our experts who have shared with us. You know, as church, as Christians, there are some things that are very important to us. You know, we need to bear in mind that we are a part of community. We belong to each other. And so we have a responsibility to keep and to take care of each other and to keep each other safe. Each human being for us carry or possess the image of God, and therefore each person is to be duly regarded and respected. Your life is sacred, and the more we create hurt for others in the community, the poorer the community becomes, the whole family of Jamaicans or whatever society we belong to. And so all of us have a responsibility to take care of each other. Values are very important if we are going to protect each other, and it starts within the family, enabled by church and school and other spaces where values are formed or shaped. And so again, I want to encourage us, church and other entities, to do all that we can to really shape the minds and the values and attitudes of our people, so that we do not see each other as targets to hurt and to take advantage of, but we take care of each other, because we need each other to be able to have a good and healthy society. That we learn how to manage conflicts. You know, it's the day when we are focusing on the elimination of violence against women. Manage our conflicts. Conflicts will take place, disagreements will take place, but we must learn how to deal with our conflicts healthily, so that we do not have to end up with violence, with murder, with mayhem, you know, these dangers to society, but that we manage our relationships well. Neighborliness, look out for each other, care for each other. You see a child on the road, just imagine that could be your child as well. So you do all that you can to make sure that child is safe. If you think the child is at risk, then act as a responsible adult to make sure that the child is protected. And I want to say to those who prey upon others, a part of the contributing factor is when we do not experience personal empowerment and development. So we take advantage of other people, trying to make up for our own deficiencies. I want to challenge our young people, especially, or young men in particular, to make sure that you are developing yourself as an individual, your education, your career, so that you don't have to prey on other people to have a life, that you can live independently, you can accomplish for yourself, and you can be proud of yourself, and you become a positive contributor to family, to community, to society. We have too many of our people who are going the wrong way, and we are just creating a negative image for our society. Too many of our people would love to come home to contribute to the rebuilding of their country, but they're fearful. You know, why should I leave and come, and the next thing I'm held up, I am murdered, I'm raped, I'm killed? No, we need to make Jamaica a safe place, and all of us must make our own contribution to make it the wonderful place that it has the potential to be. You know, as a person who has the opportunity of going to different places in the world, and you meet people who, some of them would, their greatest dream is to come to Jamaica, land we love, right? They would love the opportunity to come to Jamaica. Or when you say that you're from Jamaica, you are received with such warmth. And the irony is that sometimes in your own space, you feel so unsafe. So it's a challenge to all of us to make sure that our country is as wonderful as it has the potential to be, that we are caring and protecting each other. Bless you. It was wonderful to share this space with you. God bless.
God bless you, moderator.
Thank you, moderator.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who joined us this evening to watch this discussion. We hope that you leave your comments in the section below to just start a conversation, an important conversation, one that is relevant and needed. Let us participate in the Thursdays in Black campaign, or let me say continue to participate in the Thursdays in Black campaign. We do so by wearing black on a Thursday, by reporting and speaking up and out against violence and rape. And if ever you should see a group of people wearing black, honk your horns as a driver, turn your headlamps on. Don't forget to document this and to tag us on Instagram. We want to be reposting this to spread awareness. Tag us at UCJCI on Instagram, and also use the hashtags Unite and Fight, use the hashtags End Violence Against Women and Girls, and we'll be reposting them. So we're looking forward to you sharing these pictures and videos. We say thanks again to the experts that have joined us this evening to share your experiences and tips and tricks, life hacks, if you may, as we enter this Christmas season. Please stay safe, continue to have this conversation in your spaces, and share this video with someone. Have a blessed evening.
Good.